Alright, I'm strong. And we are down to our final four teams at VCT Masters Shanghai. We had the second round of lowest today. 100 Thieves won, Heretics won. The four teams that won the upper quarterfinals through to the main stage, I suppose. I think this is now being played at the big stadium next week. And so it now becomes a lot easier to look at these teams, to review these teams, to preview these teams, however you want to put it. We've got less of them, we've got more game film on them, all this sort of stuff. So we're going to go a bit more conventional for the playoffs. But to start, we're going to do this team by team instead of trying to fit this all into one video. We're going to go a little bit deeper than before. We're going to look at these teams strategically. We're going to get into a bit of even counter-strat stuff. That's not really the point of the video, but like, for example, if you were going to beat these teams, how would you beat them? Going to do a bit of that. And I'm going to start with 100 Thieves, who I think the consensus probably is that they're at least third best among the four teams left. I kind of think they're the weakest of the four, actually. And I will explain why, don't worry. But yeah, so let's just go on straight into it. So this is 100 Thieves map pool since the start of the year. And like most teams, they don't go 7 maps deep. They have a very, very clear permaban. It's Lotus. They have a very clear pick priority. You can see here it's usually bind. They've gotten that bind pretty consistently, and it's because most teams don't even pretend to go 7 deep on their map where they go 6 deep, right? And why? I should say why is that, in case you're not aware. Only for most teams, it comes down to this. Look, there are very few teams that consistently practice 7 maps week to week or feel they can do, because there usually isn't time to. So standardish schedule is a 2-3, right? I think, well, that's what we most use on Vitality, right? So you scrim 2 maps, take a break for map review, whatever. You scrim 3 more, that's your day. And obviously there's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff before and after in terms of theory and debrief. You go in like 8, 9, 10 hours overall, and longer for coaching stuff. But that's your day as a player, right? So you've got 5 maps to scrim. I know in South of games this can be more. Back in League when I was on Liquid, I remember we were doing, and on TSM we were both doing 6 as a regular, 8, but then that's a bit of a different game, whatever. So for EU, you at least had 1 game a week, right? Which means, accounting for an off day and accounting for anything else that sort of came up, you were going to get 3 to 5 days of scrims between one game and the next, typically. So that's between 12 and 20 scrims, right? Theoretically, on the upper side of that, you could practice every map twice, have 6 maps left over to use how you want to, cool. That's not how it works in reality. Because maps get cancelled, you have to like sometimes take a map for the sake of the other team you're scrimming against. Blah blah blah. You probably want more than 2 on a map that you're like very high certainty you're going to pick yourself. So there's a decent chance that even on a good week, there's a map you're not going to have any chance of practice, any chance of prep, whatever. So that's why most teams have a perma. There just aren't enough hours in the day to combine to do this, basically, for the players' sake. Coaches, I think you could. Players can't really. I mean, it's interesting that Genji are the only team without a perm, and we know what we know about Korean teams is working practice anyway, but whatever. So you get these perms. And the thing is, the meta for perms in your region, it might work out well for you, it might not. For 100 Thieves, it's worked out pretty well, because a lot of teams like Lotus, anyway, so you kind of want to ban against them. There also aren't many teams with bind permas in NA or have come to Shanghai. I say that's unusual because bind has always been a pretty favoured perma for a long time for pro teams. Just happens to not be the case this year. Okay, so what I've said before about this is that most teams have a pool that kind of works on a curve where the top 1-2 maps you're just lights out on. 3 through 5 have clear weaknesses, but you feel fairly confident on them. You can sort of beat any team you feel like. Bottom end of the pool is usually rough. Varies from team to team. Truth is that teams are rarely unbeatable even on their best map if a team is strong enough in the map themselves and are willing to dedicate resources to adapting against it. Now Bind, or NRG on Bind, have looked pretty close to unbeatable. They've lost it once to G2 in playoffs, and it's like 4, 5, 6, 8 wins on it, right? So this has been an insane map for them. And yeah, But the judgment at some point becomes qualitative rather than quantitative as well, in terms of how strong that top map is and how strong the map is, particularly below that one where it is just a revealed preference, right? There are teams who have their strongest map and it won't be the one they pick. Foot Ascent, example of this, they've barely played it this season. Everyone knows it's their strongest map. Why haven't they played it? Well, they played Carmine Corp 3 times, Perm won it. Heretics twice, Perm won it. Fnatic 3 times, they have an odd opinion on Fnatic's strength on that map, so it hasn't come up in the veto a lot. Obviously, when it finally did, they destroyed them. So you get exceptions like that, but I would say it's pretty hard to dispute that Bind is by far 100 Thieves' best map. But then when you look at Breeze, Sunset, Icebox, becomes a little bit interesting. So I'll talk about Bind a lot here because this has a lot to say, and I think this tells you a lot about them as a team. I looked at Breeze, and I looked at Icebox, and I'll talk a little bit about them as well, but it's probably going to be more on Bind than anything else. And the spoiler here is their pool seems a little bit shallow to me. I'm not sure how, I have some doubts about them. But we'll just get into Bind and that'll sort of start telling us things, right? So let's go. Okay, so Bind. They've been running this comp of Brimstone, Fade, Gecko, Raze, Viper. They've been playing this since kickoff. They liked this map a lot historically, just with the core of Bang Cryer and Asuna, right? We actually banned it against them in this homegrown event a couple of years ago, for example. This has always been a map they've been good on. But they came up with this comp. They lost the first outing against Leviathan. Pretty dominant since then. They had, 6 in a row, where they won at least 8 rounds on first half. That's a good, for a map that's your pick, and the other team can pick into you, the side. They got 5 of those 6 pistols on that streak, for the record. They have been a team that is very consistently good on pistols on this map. I'm not going to analyse the pistols too much because that's kind of getting nitpicky, but they are good at them. So that helps in terms of establishing that momentum. But okay, we've got this comp. Now the first thing I see when I see that comp, I see when they started playing it, which was really, really early, they've either played a very, very good meta call here, or they've gotten very, very lucky in terms of it. Because Fade is a call on a lot of maps right now. It's really the call on Bind, I think. And why is that? It's kind of a part of it's just it's not been touched, while a lot of other initiators have been. Obviously, the particular thing giving up space here is Sky, as they ran in the old comp. They ran in a very similar comp in the past. They ran Sky. Most teams run Sky. The only other team in NA who played it was, I believe, 100 Thieves, in G2, and G2 got off it very quickly. Why do I think it's so good on Bind? Well, let's have a look. I'm not going to go too deep onto this, because this isn't like a whole comp meta thing, but basically this position has always been kind of where you put an initiator, you put Sky in particular on Bind, because she can sit here, she can flash here, she can flash over here with smoke, she can flash back in the site if they try and go hard from hooker. It's a really powerful position, has been for 3 years now basically. Essentially Sky not having a flash completely changes the character of the agent on this map, because you can't throw flashes for info here anymore, really. You can't throw flashes for info into hooker. You can't throw flashes for info. You have to really be really cautious about how you use the flashes. Fade Eye isn't as good as flashes, but Fade Eye is, and Fade Dogs, really good through TP. Really good here. Not as good, still good. If they're there, they've got to shoot it, or because if they have to hide from this, typically, unless they... I think it's even harder to hide from Skyflash, to be fair, because with Skyflash you could just smoke here and sit in it. With Fade Eye, you kind of either have to be back here or you have to shoot it. So yeah. She has 2 dogs instead of 1. That's nice. The ult is way, way better on this map because the thing with Sky is the enemy team doesn't have much lurk potential, and you're not going to get as much value out of this ult as this ult with regards to just taking the whole site. Right. So yeah. So that's how Fade in general. That's why Fade in general is kind of becoming a pick, and why it should become more of a pick. But let's look at how EU, or however it's pronounced, on 100 Thieves. Look how he plays it. Okay, so how did he play against Foot, for example, on this defense where they completely dominated them? Okay, pistol. Basically, he played here. He threw out a util early. He went back to elbow. He played elbow. He killed him elbow when he tried to come back onto B. Cool. Anti-eco goes a Heaven. Guardian looking this way, not taking space actively. These two are kind of stacked like here, I think. Throwing his back up for them. They get the first kills, then she jumps in and she gets the rest of the kills clean up. Basically 3v5 there. because they call where the foot stack is going to come into on this anti-eco. Anti-bonus, she opens up like here. She dogs really early. Then she stays lamps. She bought a rifle for this, by the way. Foot win this one. Round 4, dogs here. With raise, gets bath control. Runs back, plays backside B. Pretty quickly. Round 5, bath control again, same thing basically. Runs back B. Round 6, she starts a heaven. So this is like very passive thing again. She can throw her eye, I'm not sure if she does. She insta rotates towards B, like literally 2 seconds into the round. And plays backside here. And they lose this round hard, by the way. Round 7, she's doing this again. She's going sight back to elbow. Round A heaven to insta rotate. Round 9, A heaven sticks a little bit, then rotates. And I'll caution here, the setups around her are changing up, obviously I'm not moving them around every single time, a fair bit. Like, Viper is generally somewhere on B. Gecko's kind of looking for, generally Hook or Airbus looking for first contact. But pushing up quite aggressively here a lot of the time, just getting his first angle, then running back. Raise is generally short or lamps, more when she's not actively contesting this. Brim is fairly constantly around here, essentially. But FaZe is playing full rotate, like she's playing. She will be the third person on contact for A, she'll be the third person on contact for B. She's playing the furthest back possible. She's almost never going to take first contact here with her gun. She's heavy, she's near instant running back. If she's B, she's not sticking around here for long. She's kind of like one piece of U-turn, then she's running back to elbow. So that's kind of interesting, right? Because this is the thing, when you see a FaZe doing that, for a team, you can see it either as a sign of strength or a sign of weakness. And let me explain what I mean. So FaZe can do this. I would say she's better at playing this style at this point than Sova, for example. Or in chalk generally, not just bind. Sova has generally been the agent when you do this, by the way. With regards to playing this really deep full rotator thing, this is how Leo plays on a lot of maps, for example. Yeah. Well, he plays it on some maps. On other maps, he's more aggressively angles, but whatever. Point is, typically, if you're playing this full rotator thing, Sova on Ascent was one other one you'd do this a lot. Because the agent's ability to help out on a flood, and to remind, a flood is basically a retake, but you're retaking as the bomb is going down rather than waiting and getting into position. Her ability to help on a flood is pretty high, I'd say. I think getting maximum value out of the eye is hard, but like for example, if you're stacked up here, these dogs are always basically going to let you get out of this, what would otherwise be quite a difficult opening to get out of as a defending team. However, if you are playing like this, you are basically saying, okay, we aren't even going to try to play the map. We're going to hunker down. We're going to probably, what essentially resembles a double anchor on sights, right? Like, he might be playing under hooker, but he might also be playing back here. She might be playing under hooker, but she might be playing fully on elbow. Same on this side. So they play like these two positions a lot, for example, or they'll double up on these positions. But because they're obviously the typical Viper wall goes up here. They're trying to play one on both sides, and the other one swings out to help them and all this sort of stuff, right? And you sit in those positions, you hope for trades. If Faye guesses right, it's pretty easy to win the round. Like if she starts here and you've gone super quick here, you get a 4 for 3 basically. She guesses wrong, you're still going to have a chance to come back onto the round. The inherent dynamics of how attacking sites works is very easy to, well, it's not easy, but you can execute here instantly. You're always going to get stopped when the Viper utility's here a little bit on B. So her starting A, having and rotating to B is a pretty typical, I'm guessing they're going to try and fast execute rotation, where I kind of cover my bases from both sides. The problem is if you're playing like that constantly, it shows a little bit of lack of complexity of your defense again. I know all the pros are going to be screaming at me right now. It's bind. What do you expect? Absolute Groover trash map for Groover infants. You just go A without ult, and you go B without Groover, unlucky dog. Well, of course, there's no complexity. It's bind Groover. And there's not 100% wrong. I think people have gotten a bit more of an appreciation that the way you play an execute out and the way you play a site out mid-execute and through to the moment planting itself, that matters a lot on bind. It's not something you just kind of dismiss. And that brings some complexity to it because it's more so how you position on the site, how you do that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's not really, you can't really push stuff mid-round for the most, 100 Thieves try. But for example, there's a round where I think Bang pushes all the way through here and just enemy Grim's just standing there, for example. I think this was during NA playoffs. He's just standing there and killed him. Right, because it's very much weighted to the attacking team if you push through as defender. And the same on the attacking thing, there are these massive sort of dead zones, for example. You do not want to be staying in here at any length of time as the attacking team, but at the same time you don't really want to be actually defending as the defending team because it just becomes a pure coin flip because the angles are so weird, right? Okay. And I think this is why this works out so well with 100 Thieves playing on this map the way that they are. I don't know who's calling these structures. I'm going to assume Boostio. This could be completely wrong. It could be EU calling it himself. It could be someone else even. My impression is they're getting a read on where the enemy team is wanting to attack at a rate significantly above average. The risk reward on what they're doing is going significantly in their favour. The rotation for fade from A to B is pretty good against that. If people are just falling into those sort of dynamics, and you can play these like 2-2 anchors, and it just, as long as you're shooting, it works, right? Okay, so to start thinking, okay, how's the attacking team do I shut this down? And the easiest way to do this is, well, I'm oversimplifying here, but having KO really helps you here for the reference. The info you can get with knife in terms of, I don't know what exact knives, but like deep knives, there's stuff you can do. The info you can get off the knife here with regards to positioning is going to let you catch fade mid-rotate a lot of the time. Or it's going to force them far back enough B off B long, because this is a problem here. This is like, they rely on defending here quite a lot, right? They want you to at least have the possibility that Gecko's just going to play here and flash out and kill 3 people if you come up B long. That helps them a lot in terms of slowing down these attacks onto B. If you had a knife, that would reduce a lot of the threat there. And I've got to point this out, right? 100 Thieves went 8-4 against Foot, right? But they did this because Cryo had 20 kills on defense. He's played here. They tried to play around this wall each time. These two just mowed them down every time. This has happened more. This has happened at least, not 20 kills, but like there's been at least 3 times this season on defense where Cryo has just completely gone off, and that's the reason they kind of made it so easy on defense. So the record they've got is a little bit misleading on that. In terms of it being impenetrable, because obviously, yes, that's they've got a defensive setup there, it's working really, really well. Cryo's playing great, kudos to them. You can't force your way through them when the barriers are up. And just for like a point of order here with regards to how this is going, you can see G2 get a bang carry some on this one. Cryo's 10-6. Here, Cryo's got 9 kills, but G2 actually shut them down. Against Leviathan, that was the soonest map, fair enough. 23-5 against Loud. 10-9 against NRG, so not as much, as soon as there's a lot more, but still pretty solid. You can see here, 11-10, 13-4. 12-6 where everyone else was struggling. And this was the last one. This was early in the season, right? My point here isn't that, oh, it's just Cryo shooting or it's just a Asuna shooting, right? My point is more so, if a Brimstone is getting those numbers, that means you are doing a lot to help him, because he shouldn't be getting those numbers. And I kind of always look at that and I'm like, hold on, there might be something that can be exploited there if that's happening consistently, and they kind of need that to happen to win games, which they kind of do. Okay, let's assume you don't have KO. Let's assume, in fact, it is a mirror comp, which Heretics are running the mirror comp now, if I'm remembering correctly. What do you do now? You don't have KO, so you can't really... You don't have great info for spotting out this sort of stuff. I mean, I think there's some fade eyes over here, there's some interesting stuff you can do, but you don't have a massive amount of info in terms of how they're rotating on defense. You kind of have to work on the assumption of how you think they're going to. Maybe you try to clear some stuff out here, but yeah. What do you do now? So the headline thing here is just you slow down your attack drastically, which is basically what happened in the Foot game. Foot start out trying to execute on them really hard. It does not go well. They slow down a little bit. They start winning rounds. They're coming closer to winning rounds, I think, on the poll. They finished out half at 4-8, but it could have easily been 5-7 or 6-6 after the last couple of rounds. That's the headline. You slow down against them, and you start forcing them to make decisions. But what I will say is, that's not really enough. That's not really enough to impart at that point, right? Because if you do this without understanding what they want to do, you just slow down your attack, you start playing third wave, you start playing contact, you will probably mess it up really badly. Why do I say that? Well, because they'll get up into these positions like here and here and here and here. Get up onto these lines. With rifles, I noticed this, they don't seem to play judge that much compared to most teams on buying the defense. They have the wall out here, so they can hide behind that as well. But more typically, they are playing up, and then they can TP out quite easily if they want to. So if your only thought is just basically full default, do like the standard default at this point on this map, you just hide, and just then come back on them with contact. They're going to be sitting there, and this comp has as good resources compared to most for clearing this sort of stuff with util, clearing all these angles up and away. There will be an angle you probably don't check, and at best you'll be 50-50 swinging into them, and you don't want to be doing that with that many people, right? Now I will say, you've got Fade, you've got Gecko in this scenario, right? You can keep both alive and save like their full kits. So I'm talking, you do not use Wingman for bomb. You literally save it to clear, like you save it to clear because you're going to use it initially to clear, and then by the time you get it back, obviously you're kind of you've given them time to rotate, so you almost have to plant without Wingman. But if you can keep them alive and save their full kits, which also means, for example, you don't use Dog early at all on Fade, you might have enough to just come back and then off timing like 2.5, so like 30 seconds left. You start doing your execute essentially, or even later. If you default in a way like this standard way where it lets you group quickly, you wait for Fade Eye to come out from their side because they are going to use it. You've got like 15 to 20 seconds after that Fade Eye where you've got enough time to walk up to that side, hit it. They're low on util, you can probably get the plant off and you can come back. Okay, that's cool. You need to flash boom from short and or any hooker threat as well. But there's a plan you can make around that, so that is viable. Now, if you're willing to play without this typical wall on A, and if, for example, I don't know, you could do a wall that's more narrower here, you could just literally save the wall. If you have a plan around changing the wall up, that can also be helpful. Because you can either put it in a position where you have a line to sight, which excludes like both of these spots, so I don't even know what that would be, but like something weird like this, and just playing along both sides of the line. Or you just don't put it down, you save it fully for the exec. Okay, that becomes interesting as well. That's uncomfortable for teams generally. Teams don't like to vary up their Viper walls on attack as a rule. So I get at the end of the day, I get why that isn't maybe going to be a thing for most teams. But that's a couple of the ideas of the ways you can start thinking about how I could potentially counter-strike this team, right? And this is the thing, there are ways to break this defense. I'm like 100% sure, and obviously G2 have already done it. But I also see why they seem to work out consistently quite well for them. It's very, very good into the default style of playing attack for most teams at this current point in this current meta. And it's also pretty good against fast teams, even if, again, I think the foot scorer maybe flattens a little bit with the 8-4. But it's good against teams that are fast, it's good against teams that are slow. It just kind of works against teams running a very default game plan. So that's fair enough. Okay, so now what about attack? So statistically, this is their weaker side in general, right? I'm not sure why so many teams picked attack into them, apart from just its bind, potential momentum from getting ahead on attack on bind, blah, 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 which never works, you never got the pistol. But they didn't. And again, they seem kind of one note here. So what was the foot game flow, right? It was first time, bombs down at 125 here, first round. Very, very quick. The pistol in general seemed very, very good. It makes sense. Anti-eco, a bit slower. They kind of waited out. I think it's a 55-second plant somewhere. They tried to go fast again on bonus. So Basuna literally just double satchels in here with Judge. They don't use it on defense, they use it on attack, go figure. But he satchels over here, tries to, it's like 3 people here, tries to get one, doesn't. I believe one, I think it was Viper. It's lurking baths, these 3 are here. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they lose the bomb here a little bit later, because they try and still push it. Then, so they have to play a flow round. They fight 3 of them back here. They get kill off of that. They eventually get the bomb back, they plant here, they lose, whatever. Then they go and hit fast a couple of rounds, really, really fast. Again, like 125 plants. Until it stops working and they slow down and go to full default. Now, are they doing anything amazing here? So for this anti-bonus to 10-4, for example, like I said, as soon as it tries to get open with charge and double satchel on the backside, doesn't work out. Doesn't work for them initially, but they've got good crossfire here, so they just basically shoot. They literally just I've got 3 brims, so I don't remember who it was. They got 3. They killed her. They got 3 brims back here, just like hanging out, trying to fight from both angles. They get 1. Still lose the round in the end. But Foot Take is a very questionable fight, and they kind of go into it. And they make some good plays also the rest of the game. I've got 12-4, which I think they lose this round, but it's like a nice play. So literally fade, instant runs up here, dogs into hooker, make sure it's clear, raise instantly, jumps into sight. When they're planting with Gecko, they've got like at least, I think 1, maybe even 2 people in the smoke on backside. So these guys are trying to get out here and they just can't do it. So if we're going to define this quickly, how 100 Thieves are playing, first wave, aggressive site control. And again, the rule of thumb with teams in general, they are best against their own defense. This attack will probably do quite well against the defense because the first contact the first contact line here, they move forward so quickly to here that if a player is sticking, like let's say sticking elbow, he's probably not going to catch this guy. If he's sticking long, he's probably not going to catch this guy. And you've put up a system where you've cut off the rotation from here. You've isolated the player likely here. You can start trading down at that point. You can start hunting them down. So just run, like, stop that here, run him down, whatever. So how do you stop this attack? Well, I would say the main thing here is you just can't afford to have players get isolated. So there's a couple of approaches you can take. One is to play doubles just somewhere. The obvious place to do this is in baths. He sets up the angle, he's still playing onto him, so if they rush from here, you're playing 2 here. It can be in... it could be in hooker. It could be in lamps. Well, it probably won't be in hooker. It could be. You could still play here on this. You could play on the elbow here. Probably don't want to get too aggressive with this, but you could play like this. You play hard doubles basically, because then you're gonna be able to throw out your util. It's way harder for them to attack into 2 people than it is to 1 generally. Yes, there are going to be cases where you just get sprayed down. It's unlucky. But if they know 2 are here, it's if you've got 1 person here, then they can just wrap around. It becomes a lot easier for them to, if they can get out hooker, wrap around hooker, or just trade you down because they think you're less likely to get 2 than 1, right? And you also probably, at this point, because remember if they attack here, you can potentially go back to here and you have more spread out retake, make it more difficult for them. Generally, it's good for the attacking team. You get more control up here. So you can do all of that. What you can also do is say, okay, if you want to play like this, screw it. I am going to play full retake on you. I am just going to sit here. I'm not going to try and flood. I'm going to wait 5 to 10 seconds for your util to go down. I'm going to make sure maybe I've got a crossfire here. I don't know. So this player's a little bit scared, but he's not hugely. He can deal with it, right? But you're playing for full retake. And the trick to this, by the way, generally is that you need boss control to do that. Which seems weird because the thing about boss control, why a lot of teams don't do it anymore, is because if they go B, you just kind of feel like you've got such a long rotate back. Which is true. But you say, okay, you accept. If they're going to full rush B, I'm going to accept that. I have to play 3 on site for this, so they have like 1 guy playing like here, supporting him. 1 guy playing like here still, maybe he's here. But I've got basically this sort of setup, so these 2 can push TP if they need to. This guy's going to be slow on the rotate, but I'm just willing to accept that at some point because they'll have enough difficulty getting out that kind of helps them rotate a little bit. But I'm setting up in a way where I'm just happy to take the 5-on-5 rather than trying to trade down, rather than trying to take any risk on that sort of thing. Now, I will say, for example, G2 destroyed 100 Thieves in this map in Grand Finals. Even with the Sky comp. G2 running a comp I don't like. They destroyed them on defense. Why did that happen? Well, I would say it was a little bit of both of those things. It came more down to the two-man pushes, to be honest. So, for example, you had a round at 5-3 where Sky for G2. Take this on now. But Sky for G2 is playing here. Gecko is full retake on elbow. And they pushed 2, so I'm assuming that was, in that case, that was probably Gecko raise. Literally pushes all the way through to here on Baths. So what happens is, when 100 Thieves slow down, they kind of try to default a little bit in their usual sort of defaulty setup. And they try to attack A on second wave. These two come behind them, kill them. These two, I think, ran back, but obviously, if they were like saw 4 here, then they could TP onto them. If they did decent timing, they just get pinched and they get destroyed. If I remember this correctly, it won't be Gecko there, but you get the idea. I think it was Brim actually. So these two-man sort of thing, where you disrupt the map like that, they can do a lot of damage to this attack because this attack isn't that complex. Yeah, and I don't think their attack is good. I'm not gonna say it's not good, but that's not where they're getting 8 rounds consistently, right? But yeah. Okay, so yeah, overall this is solid for them. It can be very hard to beat that defense because very default positions. They're getting their rifles. There's no warning off the pistols a lot of the time. I think it's hard to attack the defense without a comp with good tools on it. I would imagine Gen G have to ban it probably. They already banned it against them once. I would imagine they have to ban them again. I don't think they can take it on under any circumstances just because of how their comp works. But this kind of reveals a lot of the character. Like I don't think this map is bulletproof by any means. And it kind of reveals a lot of the character of 100 Thieves in general. So they're getting by. Well, not getting by. They're doing well on the basis of 3 things. I think 1, very good pistols. 2, they play their own game, very defaulty game, very well, compared to, for example, other teams that play a defaulty game in NA. I don't think NRG are mixing up things too much, but they have, the core wasn't gelling together in the same way, right? Remember, the 100 Thieves core, those 3 players have played together for 2 years now. But they're refining the game, They brought in Busio, who has brought another dimension to it. And this is point 3, I think. I'm assuming Busio is responsible for this, but so hopefully I'm right. But their defensive reads are very good. Their attack is like just good enough to work out. Like they'll get like 55% win rate on it. It's fine, and that's not all you need if your defense is good enough. And that's kind of where they are. I mean, this is the thing. I think they compare a lot to Crew in their region, who, funnily enough, the one team who had basically beat them before this tournament was Crew. They seem very. Well, was it the other way around? No, they lost to Crew and they beat everyone else. And Crew play very similarly to them in terms of they're a defaulty team playing a defaulty game style, but they shoot very well and they're very well gelled. And that, I think, in a nutshell, is 100 Thieves. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Breeze now, which I think is probably their second best map in my opinion. It's the one they picked today. Cypher, Jet KO, Sova, and Viper. They ran this comp in 2022 with like no changes. You remember, same core. It's a pretty conservative comp. It's pretty old at this point. Double Sentinel gives you some nice flexibility on defensive sets potentially. Funnily enough, they don't seem to use it that much, but they use it quite a lot on other maps or whatever. Sova was crap on this map for a while, in my opinion. I think he's okay now because of Tube's reopened and he can do stuff around Tube. Basically, him just holding back here and being able to always at least drone an arrow back in is kind of nice. I don't love the tools they've got here, but they're fine. They're passable. And this is the basis of one map, I'd say, where they showed up really well on their attack during this tournament so far. Albeit, yes, I know they've only played 7 maps, like 3 of them are by, and they've ended a few without getting to attack almost. So how do they play it? Well, Cypher lurks outside B. He's not going to come up the first couple of rounds, and he'll eventually start like roaming out maybe. Viper puts all down here. She's looking towards mid. She, again, isn't likely to roam out early. She might at some point, but she's threatening the A split here. 3 of them play outside A, maybe one takes a peek halls, but it's pretty rare. Mostly they're trying to just get orb, punish someone because this is a very advantageous angle for the attacking team rather. You can't really peek it. And they'll fall back a little bit and they'll hit 1 minute 10 seconds they'll start to execute. Just before second wave of info util, I think they're always like, I think they use a standard Viper wall here. Against PRX, obviously this was the team comp with the Harbour Rainer, they had no info. They still were playing against them like they would play against an info comp. Well, got a comp with any info whatsoever. They wait for they get there just before the first wave of util goes down, or comes back up rather. They get the plant, they play plus plant, great. They got Viper, wonderful. And it's pretty solid fundamentally, to be fair. Once you've done this a couple of times as well, with regards to aggressing A, you can start potentially getting timings. Like they're holding like deep positions here with regards to they're holding against a push. I think Paper X tried to push both of these things early, and they just killed them both times. Eventually, Paper X's pushes actually start getting the better of them, but that's a different discussion. But this is fine. So, for example, after the timeout of 5-1 against Paper X, they did a little switch up on this. So, started out here, then runs back, switches around. Viper walks up elbow. Cypher walks up and out pillar. Basically stretching the map a little bit more. And then next run, by the way, they just full execute A. So, well. But this is fine. This is a solid way to approach a map where you can't really hard exec in the same way anyway, unless you've got a breach comp on B. Bang and Booster getting good info, all cool, good for them. But was this just how they play against Paper X? When Paper X push everything on defense, so you kind of sitting back and holding, and then you hit somewhere is probably quite good against them. Did they do the same thing against G2? Yeah, kinda. First couple of rounds, full on pushes, and then some set piece like I think their pistol or their anti-eco or something like that was just like 5 people running out of tube, and you're playing out of tube with the KO flashes because you can go here, you can come out of door, blah blah. They had this wall up, which is there. If you see that wall coming, the enemy team's about to try and abuse tube. And then after a couple of rounds, they managed to walk into a completely empty site on B, which is wonderful. So this wasn't I wouldn't say it's worth playing as a PRX adjustment. I think this is kind of how they play. They got some more gimmicks they didn't really show here today. So overall, it's decent. But look, I've got to be blunt here. Both G2 and Paper X are horrible on Breeze. Paper X despises the map. G2 it's a little higher in their pool, but it's not good. Aside from the fun play on tube, this is kind of a case of doing the easy part well here. And this is simple enough to at least challenge enough to make them go, oh, what do we do now? So what you do as a defending team for reference here, you stick 1 on tube. I would say preferably not Sova. I don't massively like him, even though I said he can play that. Like Astra's like really good for this, for reference, if you've got Astra. You stick 2 on a site. So I'm going to be Astra. Stick 2 on a site somewhere. This used to be quite hard to play as a position. I think it's become a lot easier because people have gone to the Astra, comes to Yoru, they've gone to basically comps where you have the mobility that you're not feeling that, oh, I've just lost a round if I'm standing here, for example. Cypher's also good for this. They can all manoeuvre around with their utility. You challenge mid from heaven enough with whoever you've got, whatever you've got, to stop them jumping up here. You start doing this towards the latter half. You don't need to do this first 4 rounds, and then you start doing it. So I'll have a guy peek out a window, I'll have a guy waiting for this push here, maybe he's playing an off angle, maybe whatever. You don't want to commit too hard to just trying to stop the plant or challenge them on here, because this favours them. This kind of favours them. But you don't want to commit too hard to stopping the plant, because yeah, they've got the Viper util, sure. But at some point, they can't really stop you from walking at them during the post plant with this comp they've got. Right? They don't. The KO util can be awkward on the defense, on the post plant attack, which is you on the defensive, right? You've got the jet, which is a little bit awkward. Sova arrow, fine, but yeah, they can't really stop you just walking at them slowly during the post plant, and then you get to their Viper wall or whatever, you get to whatever they put down, and you just flash through and you attack them. So there are a lot of ways here basically to skin a dog. And this is kind of the problem. On bind. Their attack's a little bit of bite to it on the exec. That was mostly because Asuna was on raise, actually, if you watch those things back. Now, Cryo, he's always had a little bit of a thing where he used to be a chamber one trick. He's a more passive duelist player, more conservative duelist player, probably be more accurate. He's not so good at breaking that line by comparison. So, assuming you play off tube correctly, you can hold yellow, or even hold close potentially. You can wait, and then you basically you occupy backside and you flood. I'm not sure what they do then, because then you're asking Cryo to jump in behind, like jumping over Viper walls, that sort of stuff. That's not really his game. It's hard to do that with KO. KO can do it in theory, but it's very difficult. I don't know what they do then. And for record, their defense is going to look like basically like this. Cypher's on here. He has a Viper wall supporting him. I believe it's this wall, but it might be the other way. I'm wrong. It's the other way. I believe it's this wall he has. Viper's going to play as far away as possible from B. Usually like here, because you need this wall for retakes. You want her alive. But you're predominantly going to look... I would characterise what I do, at least in the early rounds, as double angle, because Sova isn't going to play tube much, actually, surprisingly. He'll play more like here. Jet's running around. These two are kind of playing more close on site. They will get off of this tendency after a while, and then KO will just start basically playing rotator. Sova will go back to this position. Jet will still have fun somewhere. Boostier's going to play hella close on B. Like this close. He may even have Judge. Viper's going to play like here. She could play for like headshots and stuff like that. On A, Sova and KO will spread. They'll start with some mid presence, like round 4-5 onwards, where they'll start maybe coming out of mid to try and counter their own attack, counter what they would do. KO's typically going to be B. Sova's again starts more like stairs, and then he goes back to just the nest position. The Zova has weaker presence on tube than a lot of Sovas, but he will come back down later if teams punish it. He will come back later in the half in general as well. He'll more so play like here. Now, their inability to play around tube, not their inability, their struggle to play around tube defensively, I think is a significant weakness. Assuming they're playing a comp, either a comp with a Yoru or an Astra or both, that can punish them for that stuff in tube. I think this is fundamentally a weakness that people just haven't got around to correcting yet with regards to how Sova, regards to how you play tube, with regards to just putting a single Sova there. Yeah, because most comps will be able to punish them in tube, because their comp can't on attack unless they full go for it, because limited mobility, not the right sort of flashes for that sort of thing in general. Like not like the Yoru thing, not like KO's flash is okay again, but it's a little bit weird in this map. Let's just put it like that. And yeah, they'll start committing to the anchors. They'll spread out further and further. They are perfectly willing to leave a site empty late into a half on the basis of reader will say this, so he will just full on skedaddle when they'll stack away. Typically it's they leave B because they know most teams can't attack B with these comps. Now, a strength here is, I don't think a team on the other, like an enemy team, can adapt to playing against this easily on Breeze. I think in general Breeze is like, not the hardest map, but it's a hard map to whip up a game plan on if you have been bad on it. You suck at the map, you can't whip yourself into shape quickly. I think this massively helped in the beta versus Foot, for example. With regards to just not having to worry about it, because they expand it. But yeah, if this is your second strongest map, which I think it probably is, that's a little bit worrying. I need to rewatch Icebox a bit. So actually, we'll talk a little bit about Icebox as well. Okay, so Icebox felt like the same, right? So it was good pistol, defense was solid early on. POX won some rounds they shouldn't have won. But 100 Thieves needed some like mad clutches, like the 3v1 over here, which they won. The attack really badly spluttered, because what did POX start doing? They just started doing this. The first couple of rounds they let them out onto B, and they got the plant off. They did the standard all that sort of stuff, right? That was fine. As time went on, PRX stopped letting them get any space at all, and then they struggled mightily to do anything, essentially. Like, they got pushed here, then they're running back towards A, they're not really doing anything. That's not great. If that's near the top of your map pool as well, that's really bad. And this is kind of my problem with 100 Thieves. Because to explain a little bit further, actually, they're running they're running a Gecko comp. They're running Gecko Sova on their side. This is a difficult comp to play in general. I don't think it's bad. I think it's actually very good into certain teams. The problem is you have to be active with this comp. You have to basically you have to first get that space, and you have to hope the other team doesn't contest you or isn't willing to contest you. It's kind of more so playing on start and playing post plant. But you have to be able to. You have to be in a position where you're just straight up pushing through. Again, the problem is they don't do that. Asuna is playing Gecko. If Asuna was playing Jet, this might actually work out better for them. I don't know if he's ever played Jet, or if they move Cryo to Gecko and then move Asuna to Ray, something like that, right? Because then you could see what he did on Bind, where it's just like Asuna just plays Rays and just straight up runs through and just takes Rafters immediately on an A execute, for example. That could work out really well for them. It's way too late if this isn't the thing they've ever done to start doing this, to be clear. But this is kind of their problem. They're not, because they don't take this space super aggressively, that's going to hamstring them on icebox attack. Again, that's their third best map, maybe. So that's kind of a problem. So this is kind of my prognosis for 100 Thieves. I would say, look, as a team, they're good. And to be fair, this is a meta, and this is a kind of a season where, I'm going to be honest, there are very few teams where I've been like looked at them and been like consistently wowed and think like, damn, this team's pool goes hella deep. This team's going to be really good, blah blah blah. Most of the teams that I think I expected to be good in pre-season didn't even qualify for this event at some point. But I tend to think the remaining three teams are all kind of better on this, with regards to how deep their map pool goes, with regards to how they match up against other teams in the tournament. Gen.G, I think, are a really deep map pool. Great. Not much to say there. They don't even have a perma. That's like goated. G2, I would suspect, go deeper than 100 Thieves. I think they have a problem in the head against 100 Thieves because Bind is also important for them. Heretics can play Sunset Split, Icebox. Maybe go a look. Their Lotus didn't look great anyway, without many to be fair. So Heretics have quite a nice, I think, match up into 100 Thieves. So that's... I kind of think 100 Thieves are probably going to lose to Heretics, is the bottom line here. I think if they got through to G2 and lowers, they could actually potentially beat G2 again. I don't think they can beat Gen.G, best of 3 or best of 5. But let's look on the bright side a little bit as well. If I'm going to think of a favourable comparison for them as a team, I'm actually going to say 2021 Ascend. And why am I saying that? So you've got good shooters, you've got good two-man plays. As soon as filling this similar role towards Zeke with regards to he's getting like value beyond what he shot out of initiators. Again, Cryo is 12th in this event for first kills. I think FPX's controller player life is in the top 12, so he's not like bottom of the event. And I know the Brim Gecko games are going to bring that down naturally. He's still quiet for duelist on first kill, first death overall. Yeah, don't check the stats in that sample size, who cares? But Cryo is a more conservative player. As soon as kind of picking up some of that mantle, he's like very high for his role. That's nice. That's helpful. That can be helpful for a team. You've got someone calling who, at least at this moment, is doing what he needs to do with regards to getting the right reads on defense. Your pistols are good. All this stuff. Now, do I think that means they're going to make a run in the lower bracket? Well, of course, Ascend never made a run in the lower bracket, right? I know the Cade Star stuff, blah blah, but after Cade, obviously there was no double elimination in that tournament. They were 6-0 after Cade through to grand finals and no adversity whatsoever. Everything we saw from them before that tournament, everything we saw from them after that tournament, they were not a team who dealt well with adversity at all. Right? They got on a roll and they kept on a roll. And 100 Thieves, they've already gone down to lower brackets. I know they won today. I have also said this, Paper Eggs are badly overrated For the record here, I got this wrong today. I thought PRX would actually win. I didn't think the veto would go that way. And look, to be fair, it might be Cope, sure. As much as we can do the Paper X W Gaming, oh, it's limited, it sucks, blah, 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 I think they were a better team today. Not just in terms of firepower, in terms of just how they were playing, how they played out the game. I think they were the better team, and they should have won that overtime at some point, right? Maybe not as strategically good as 100 Thieves, but a better team. So they shouldn't even, 100 Thieves for me shouldn't even got this far. Again, I think they beat G2 if they play them again. I think Heretics have a good matchup in them with just how the map pools work. The only thing you're worried about with Heretics potentially is the nerves for the younger players, because we kind of saw it, but then they bounced back well today against Foot, which they should always beat Foot, but like, they have a really good veto into them, all that sort of stuff. But it was a good result. I wonder how a best of 5 would. I feel like Heretics might even be better off in a best of 5 against them even, but obviously we're not getting that world, so whatever. They should still be favouring the best of 3 for me. So we'll see. I think a key thing for 100 Thieves I think we would want to see is, are they able to play up-tempo more? I think with how this team plays off reads, and with it not seeming like a team that is going really deep on protocols and like second, third wave stuff in terms of how developed their attack is, their defense, they're just in the right place at the right time, that helps a lot. They've got good setups on that defense, but it kind of remains to be seen that what would happen if the team consistently stretched them out and stuff. That doesn't strike me as the sort of team that's likely to be able to pivot onto what you'd want to, which is like new default, detailed protocols, blah, 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 when it comes to some of these matchups where they're going to have a bit more of a challenge in a short window. I don't think you really saw them doing that in playoffs in NA. Again, I didn't watch the entire NA regular season. I might be wrong on this. It kind of seemed like they played the same way and they just won. And I think as much as you've seen so far in this tournament, it speaks to some potential limitations of scope to execute. But obviously, I can be wrong at the end of the day. My prediction already fell for Cliff after that 4-0 start. I think I'm now, 6-5, something like that. Yeah. Like I then proceeded to call. I was 4-0. I was 1-3, so 5-3. Yeah, I'm 6-4 right now on predictions because I thought Paper-X would win today as well. So I can always be wrong. Obviously, Mike's has a good reputation strategically. The pistol's 7-6. Maybe if you can bring another layer to that game, that'd be interesting. But yeah, should be a fun series. Should be a fun rest of the tournament. Yeah, thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. I'm not sure what I'll do with regards to the other 3 teams, how much I'll go into them, that sort of stuff. But we'll see over the next couple of days. There's time for content. Yeah, thank you for watching.